Hi, welcome to our podcast, Broker Banner Denver, where we are breaking down barriers to home ownership. I am your host, Kim Davis, the real estate expert.
And I'm Patrick Williams, the mortgage guy. We're here to inform and educate about the financing and buying process. How's it going?
Good. How's it going?
Good.
Well, and on today's episode, we are going to talk about we're going to continue our series about the Denver metro area, and we're going to touch on the South. And I think Patrick's going to talk about...
Yeah, we had a jobs report come out today. We'll talk about how that affected rates.
Right.
And kind of there's some back-looking information that came out as well.
And then I also have some stats for us on today's episode. So we're going to pack a little bit in.
I think we have a pretty full episode.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, should be a good one.
Yeah, so Spring Forward is Sunday.
What do you think about that?
I like it.
So I don't like losing the hour of sleep.
You don't?
No. But I like the extra hour of daylight at the end of the day.
I love that. I love in the summer when it's 8 o'clock and you're still sitting out on your deck.
No, it's great. I'm really excited that we're finally here. Like, it has felt like the days have been getting a little bit longer, and we've made it.
Yes.
But I'm not excited to miss an hour of sleep on Saturday night.
But we always joke about, like, December 21st is my oldest daughter Ava's birthday.
Oh, okay.
And so we said, you were born on the darkest day of the year, but that you are a bright light, so we, turn it to
right. Not
better.
that so ho hum. Yeah. I think that is like one of the happiest days of the year for me too, because I'm like, tomorrow is gonna be a
brighter.
Longer day than it was today. Yeah, because it does it gets dark during when it's 4:30 and it's
dark.
I have a hard time with that.
When we don't have this so much, but when you work in an office building and you walk in and it's dark and you leave when it's dark, my husband always complains about he never sees the sunlight.
You don't see the sun. You better get out and go for a walk or something for lunch, or you don't
Start
get to see the sun at all.
Taking those vitamin D pills.
Yeah, that's important.
It is important.
Yeah, but like there's a lot of talk about getting rid of daylight savings time and all of that, and I really. Like, if you leave the time where it is right now, it's going to be light at like 4 a.m. in the summertime, and then the sun goes down at like 8.
Right.
So it's like, that doesn't make sense.
And your body's going to be all sorts of messed up.
And then if you were to leave it on daylight savings time, you'd still have that extra hour during the winter, like at night. It wouldn't be 5:30 instead of 4:30. But then I think it would be like 8:15 before the sun starts to come up.
Right.
So I don't know that.
Sorry, light.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know if there's I think, as much as I hate to say, like, this is, I think, the best way of doing it. Honestly, I do kind of hate to say that because I really, it messes with my body, and it's only for like a week, right? Like, you get through about a week of it, and you're good. You're good.
Have you ever actually had real jet lag? Like, not just like East Coast, but we went to Vietnam and...
I've never traveled as far as like Vietnam, but I've gone to South America. So that was a little bit, but not anything close to where like you're totally flip-flopped where,
it was 14 hours difference.
That's a big difference.
And when going there, it was fine. I don't know, somehow, because we landed like at midnight, and then everyone was amped, but you're pretty tired from traveling because it was like 24 hours of actual
But you're also
traveling.
Excited for the trip to come. It's on the way back, right?
So but when we came back, Jay and I were like waking up at like 4 a.m. in the morning and just like sitting there. I think one time it was when Yellowstone was still, I know there's supposed to be one more.
I don't think we're getting that last season.
But
no.
Anyways, it was like they were still filming, I think, the first half of that season. Mm-hmm. And so we just got up at like 4 a.m. and just started watching Yellowstone.
Because you couldn't go back. You were just so wide awake.
We were so wide awake.
Yeah.
And that's a hard, even though I know Taylor Swift says that. Did you hear when she went to the Super Bowl? Because she came back from Tokyo to go see the Super Bowl. She says that jet lag is a choice.
Well, maybe it's a choice if you have your own private jet.
Yes.
And you have like a bed and you just sleep. And
that would be nice.
Maybe that's when it's a choice. But I don't know if I'll ever know that. So no, I'm excited. We get that extra hour of sunlight at the end of the day here. So come next week when this podcast comes out, the sun's going to be going out like 7 o'clock.
I know. I love it.
It's
I love
great.
It.
We're almost to spring. I think we're through first fall spring.
Yeah, false spring. I know you keep saying false spring, and I'm like, fall spring.
False. Yeah. And then we'll have second false spring. You know, and because March is actually the snowiest month in Colorado.
Well, so we think. That's.
Do we need to have the stat checker check
we
us
might
on
need
that?
To have the stat checkers check, but that's what I've heard my whole life.
I've always heard that it is. Yeah.
I remember the blizzard that happened. You know, I can't. I don't know.
There's been. Some of the biggest blizzards, even in
March.
April.
Yeah.
Even in April, when my son was born, he was born during a blizzard because we were stuck. We were stuck down in Colorado Springs. Yeah.
At the.
Yep, and that's the middle, like, second week of April.
Yeah.
That he was born. So.
Well, speaking of birthdays, my daughter Lulu, my youngest, is having an 18th birthday this Saturday.
Look at that.
Yeah, happy birthday, Lulu.
Happy birthday, Lulu. So you have 2 adult children now.
I know.
Or will.
Well, yeah, Saturday. But by the time this comes out, yes, I will have 2 adult children. So she's pretty excited. She can now drink in Mexico.
That is exciting. But you know what? 18, they took a lot of the stuff at 18 away. Like
in Mexico?
And I'm not talking about Mexico.
Oh, here.
Yeah, here. I think you still buy a lottery ticket, but I think that's about it. Like, you know, any like smoking or cigarette products are now 21.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it is good actually.
Great.
No, it is good.
Yeah.
But that was kind of a big
that.
rite of passage as you turn 18 was you could buy
cigarettes.
Yeah. Yeah, not that I smoke now, but I may have bought a pack of cigarettes when I turned 18.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh, interesting. Okay, moving on.
I don't condone smoking. Please, it's a terrible habit. Don't do it.
So why don't I go through just the quick market update that just came out? And so this is for, the end of February.
So
we are
through
into
February,
the middle of
Denver
March.
market here.
Yeah, so active inventory on the market is up 45%, while homes that closed were slightly down. The biggest data is the average price of single-family homes. They went up 3.4%.
3.4. Is this year over year, Kim?
This is from last year.
Okay,
yes.
so February of last year to
Yes.
February of this
Yeah.
year. So we have 45% more inventory on the market than we did last February.
Correct.
That's great news.
And I can actually give you some stats on what that was. Just give me a second.
Because inventory's just been such a big challenge.
So active inventories at the end of February, right? 5,511 homes. And then February of last year, it was 3,778.
So that is a pretty big increase.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's telling us that the sellers are getting a little more used to the thought of the higher interest rates, willing to part ways with maybe the lower interest rate that they were able to obtain back in the early 2020 or 2021.
Were you going to say early 2000s?
I was, yeah, but then I realized that was like
Early
25 years
2000s,
ago. Yeah, early 2000s. No, early 2020s. The early
we were
20s.
in our 20s, and never mind.
So off topic here. So I saw something. I don't know if you're familiar with the movie Days of Confused. You know that movie?
Yes, a long time ago. I know it's a pot smoking movie, right?
There may be some partying that happens in the movie.
Was Dane Cook in there?
No, it's not. It's Matthew McConaughey.
All right.
All right. That's right. So I saw a stat and it made me really depressed, okay? So that movie came out, I think, in like 93, 94, somewhere around there. It was based on the class of 78, okay? So if they remade that movie today, do you know, it'd be like based on the class of like 2006. I'm like, oh, I'm so old.
Was that on your Instagram feed?
Something like that, yeah, TikTok or Instagram. I must have saw something, but it was really depressing. It really was depressing. So, anyways, the early 2020s. So inventory's getting better. There's a lot more options out there if you're a buyer.
Yes.
So
what
type of? I know we've talked about a balanced market.
Right. So it used to be a balanced market. It was they thought about 10,000 homes, and that was about a 6-month average market.
Okay.
But we're starting to see, in the past few years that even when we get up to even close to 10,000 homes, like even when it was hitting like 7 or 8, we were seeing days on market for like homes being on sale. It was starting to even out, even though we still have a lot of people moving here, but days on market currently, like we keep talking about the spring market,
Yeah.
and that has gone down. It was sitting average, around 31 days on market, and now I believe, I'm trying to find it really quick here, but I believe it was around 16 days.
Oh, wow.
On average. So you can see like that the spring market has like started to pick up, and
It certainly has.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I know we've experienced that. But it does feel like we're moving in the right direction as far as
Yes.
inventory goes. I know we're still going to be in an undersupply of homes, but we've been in an undersupply of homes for a really long time.
For a
it feels
long
like.
time.
So even just having the larger undersupply of homes feels
right.
pretty
We
good.
were under supply of homes. Actually, I think right before COVID started, so about 2019, we started to get back on kind of I think we maybe 3 months, 4 months
yeah.
of
Inventory.
and then COVID hit, and then it was like we had days.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then hence that's when everyone who owned a house loved it because we saw all of our equity.
We saw some high
skyrocket.
appreciation, in those years.
Yeah, high appreciation.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
But this is good news. This tells me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like maybe we're starting to break loose a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think people are starting to get used to the interest rates. Like interest rates are no longer going to be 3%, 4%. Like those days.
We're never going to see those rates
Yeah.
again, Kim. That was
Well,
a
let's
once in
never
a
say
lifetime.
never. You think never?
We've never. I think a healthy interest rate, really low sixes, fives.
Yeah.
We're headed in that direction. Did you have any more stats
No,
that
I
you
was
wanted
done.
to share?
No, absolutely.
Well, maybe I should move on to interest
should
rates.
move on to interest
Okay.
rates.
So today we had a jobs report that came out. It did come out a little higher than expected. So $275,000 jobs were reported. They expected about 198,000. In January, we had a huge number come out. I think it was like 275, something higher than that. But what they've done is they've revised those numbers down. So I do think there was not a lot of market movement with this report. So rates stayed flat, which is good. I was a little worried maybe that we would have a huge number come out again and rates would come back up.
Right.
So that didn't happen, thankfully. And then with that, what they did is the numbers that they released in December and January, they revised them down. We actually saw a loss of 185 that they initially reported. And this has happened for about the last 14 or 15 months. And I think the bond market is starting to catch on, thankfully.
Okay.
So we're not really... That first number that comes out, there was little reaction today because we're just seeing every single time they come out with this big number, and then the next month comes out and they revise them back down.
Okay.
And so rates have been really flat. Today, we didn't see any big movement, and we're actually coming back down off of some highs.
Oh, good.
So we've been coming back down for about the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that interest rates changed, but it seems like they popped up into the sevens and they went back down in the sixes and they popped back into the sevens, went back down.
We're right on that,
that
high 6, low 7
7,
point.
yeah.
It really, depends on how much money you're able to put down and your
Right.
credit score. And there's a
Right.
lot of different what they call
Right. We're just
loan-level
talking in
pricing
general.
adjustments. Yeah,
Correct.
we're right at between 6.875, 7 and an eighth.
Yeah.
Which is much better than what we saw back in October when we were at 8%.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I believe they hit 8. Just
We
really
did,
good.
and that was pretty
And I
much.
think you saw the stop in the real estate market for sure.
We certainly did. Yeah.
There were still a couple of people. I mean, it was like
No, everybody just
breaks.
said absolutely not. I'm not doing anything.
It was like being on the highway when people stop abruptly in front of you and you have to slam on your brakes.
It did feel like my head went into the windshield a little bit. Yeah, it's similar. I like that analogy.
Well, it's better than talking about, skiing when people stop abruptly and then you take a big fall and
I
then have to
don't know anything
go to
about
a
that.
chiropractor for, 3 weeks.
Are you-
I know
it
a lot
sounds-
about
It sounds
this.
like you might be speaking from experience.
I'm speaking from my own experience. Yes.
Yeah, so interest rates, I'm really encouraged by the news that we had today. And right now, I think we're expecting an 83% chance that the Fed starts cutting rates in June.
Oh,
So
great.
that's
news.
great. Yeah.
Yeah. So keep your fingers crossed. Let's hope that happens, especially everyone who's in even buying or selling. And, it helps both sides.
It helps auto loans. It helps
Yes.
credit card loans. It helps any borrowing is
Home
affected.
equity lines of
Everything.
credits. I don't know
Yes.
you have those, if you've seen how usually those are on a variable rate. And so
Yeah, they're usually tied to a rate. It used to be LIBOR, but there's a couple different indexes
Yes.
that they use now. And it's like, so whatever that rate is moving at,
Right.
you're paying that for that month's payment.
I've had a lot of, questions about that. Well, my HELOC, I'm like, oh, it's a variable. It's not like your mortgage.
No,
So-
it's not. I mean, there are some fixed rate products that you
Yes.
can get, but
Yes.
no, it's typically the majority of the equity lines of credit that
Right.
we see, they're a variable rate.
Oh, I
Yeah.
did say HELOC, just didn't I? Yeah,
Yeah,
home
it's-
equity line of credit. Thanks.
You're welcome. Yeah, that's what the HELOC is. So, good news
Great
today.
news.
Yes.
Well,
and-
not
and-
great news. Good news.
Good news.
Hopefully, June is great news.
We're going to keep looking towards June, and as long as I think the news starts coming, like we're seeing it right now, like jobs are flat, wage increases are flat, the economy is kind of humming along okay, but not. I think the Fed will be ready to start cutting rates, and we'll be done with this cycle that we're currently in.
That's good.
Yeah.
So, contact us if you're thinking
That's
about
right.
getting in the market, right? You want to have or know where you're headed. And I think that you can give a lot of information like, hey, this is what, if interest rates get to here, this is how much, you'll eventually be able to buy, especially people who, are renting. I have a lot of people who are like, hey, my lease is out in September or my lease is out. It is never too early to at
No.
least start looking to understand what the market looks like right now, where, what home prices are, what you can get.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that I am going to do a series on my TikTok, which, at Kim Davis Realtor, I believe it
Okay.
is, where we are going to go through and I'm going to look at different houses around the market and show like, hey, I'm not sure the price point yet, but like this is what a $600,000 home
Colorado,
gets you.
yeah,
Well,
or in
on the
Denver.
west side, on the
Oh.
north side, on the east side, on the south side, kind of like our series that
Yeah.
we're doing here.
I like
So,
it. That
yeah.
sounds like a great idea.
Which I think is a great segue to talk about the south side of Denver.
South side, the best side.
But
The best side. No,
that's because
I mean, it
Patrick
depends on.
lives on the
I have
South
lived,
Metro.
Yeah, I grew up actually northeast of Denver, kind of like small farming community. But I pretty much just have kept moving south the longer I've lived here. The main factor of me living on the south side of Denver is the proximity to the tech center.
Because you worked in the tech center. a
Almost
lot.
every single position that I've had over the last 20 years has been, my office has been in the tech center.
Right, because you worked for a lot of builders prior.
I've worked
and,
for,
doing
large national
mortgages
banks.
for them. Yes,
Large
Wells
nas-
Fargo.
Yeah,
Well,
that
I
was
don't know if you want to
downtown,
say it,
unfortunately.
sorry. Oh, okay.
We can say it. It's okay. Wells Fargo, yes, I did work for them for a while. And they, unfortunately, I had to work downtown. That was rough. So taking the light rail from, all the way at the south end here downtown, and I get really sick of that.
Parking downtown.
It's rough. It's
Yeah.
rough.
I park-
You know
or I
what?
park.
Where there's a lot of parking, the south side of the metro area. There's really a lot of ample parking down here. So
I like how you did that.
yeah. So I think this side of town really just has like a lot of amenities.
This
that-
side of town, because are we currently in the south?
we're actually in the tech center right now as we
We
speak.
are.
That's where we're recording this podcast. We're about 10 minutes away from my house, which I love. But I'm off of like Lincoln and I-25 area, like Lone Tree Highlands Ranch is where I live.
So let's just kind of define what we're talking about. When we consider the south side of the Denver metro, we're kind of talking, are you talking Inglewood?
Yeah, I mean, for when I think of the south side of Denver, I'm thinking Highlands Ranch, Lone Tree, Parker, even
Centennial.
even some Inglewood, Centennial's in there.
Yeah.
Centennial's a weird city. I lived
Yeah.
in Centennial a
Yeah.
while, but it can also be like Southeast Parker,
Right.
So it does kind of have a weird border. Littleton, but Littleton starts to go to the west. So
it does, because I
think-
live in Littleton, but I would say that I live on the west side of town. So
Right.
we'll talk about that probably
Okay.
next week. But
so I'm thinking, south of Hamden, 285,
Uh-huh.
and then really kind of like no further west than Santa Fe
Right.
to like Parker Road, because
Right.
then you start getting a little further east, right? So
see, I kind of use I-25 as the border when I consider east-west. And then I guess north-south, that's a little harder. 6th
70?
Avenue. I think 70. Well, because if you use downtown Denver,
Then
you're
70
central,
would be south. Yeah.
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 So, 6.
6, something like that.
Yeah,
Sure.
somewhere, that cuts right in the middle
It
of
does.
downtown. So,
Yeah.
but we talked about Denver last week. So, yeah, the south side, which when people usually move into Denver, one of the places that I get a lot of people wanting to move to is Highlands Ranch. I think Highlands Ranch was one of those first big subdivisions that
Master plan community,
Yes.
right? Yeah. So there's a lot of amenities in Highlands Ranch. I'm part of Highlands Ranch. I pay a monthly HOA fee.
Mm-hmm.
And as a part of that HOA, I get access to the rec centers in Highlands Ranch.
Right.
So there's actually 4 different rec centers, and it's included in your HOA. So the kids can go play basketball or play at the pool, or I think a lot of people are playing pickleball these days.
Big pickleball.
Yeah, if you go to the rec center, you better be ready because they take the pickleball seriously.
They do take their pickleball seriously. And I think that, they have a lot of road biking on, and they've done I think Highlands Ranch has done a really great.
There's bike lanes.
Yes,
yeah, there's
job.
a lot of good infrastructure
Right.
because that's what goes into like that master plan community, right? It's like they had all these massive 3 lanes on each direction roads in the very early 80s when
Yes.
they first started building it. And it's like, why do we have all of this,
And now
right?
look at
But
it.
now
It's
it's busy
wonderful.
and it's perfect. Yeah.
Even though I do think Highlands Ranch they redo their roads like every year. I mean, it's crazy how often they redo their roads.
This is going to be a hard topic for me to talk about.
Okay, we don't have to talk about it.
Yeah,
We can move on.
I mean, there is road construction. I live right off of Quebec and Lincoln, and they're doing this massive project. It started last fall to redo the whole intersection, and I can't go anywhere without going through this intersection, and it's always backed up.
First world problems
I know,
right
I
here
don't
is
wanna
what
complain.
we have.
So, I think the other nice thing about living down here on this side of town is there is so many restaurants and Park Meadows Mall with all of the shopping.
Well,
and-
I would say there's a lot of restaurants around the DTC,
Yeah.
Park Meadows Mall. I mean, really great food.
And-
There's great entertainment,
Yeah.
Pindustry, which is considered Centennial. I remember when Centennial wasn't even a city.
I remember when it got voted to be a city,
How
yeah.
long ago do you think that was?
I think it was early 2000s.
For real 2000s,
Yeah.
not 2020.
Yeah, I think it was like 2006, maybe 2005. We'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get the stat checker to check us on when Centennial became a city.
A city,
Yeah.
yeah.
So there is a lot of, they put a comedy works down here at Landmark in the tech center.
Yes.
So there's a lot of things that
Right.
were downtown only that have kind of moved down this way. And
Right.
so you have Fiddler's Green, so
Yes.
you can go see live music and good bands go there. It's a great outdoor venue. I mean, I'm not going to try to compare it to Red Rocks because
No.
you can't. But
We'll talk
it is
about that when we
on
get to the west.
side. That's right.
The west
But there
side.
is, and there's also some recreation down here. I mean, Highlands Ranch has some mountain biking trails that they, own as part of the HOA that they help
Correct.
take care of. So there's some of that and different things. So there's a lot that this side of town has to offer.
And it's just when people read, about Denver and they're looking at places, it seems like a lot of people really love Highlands Ranch. But there are some really great communities just into like if you go just a little bit north, Littleton. And speaking of, let's talk a little bit about school districts.
Yeah,
If
good
you
point.
have, so kind of there's
There's
3 different school districts, kind of, there's Douglas County.
Douglas County is the biggest one.
Well,
right?
Jeffco is the biggest in the Denver metro.
Right,
Is the
but in
biggest
the
part of-
south, on the south side of town.
Yes, on the south side.
Yeah,
You have Douglas.
yeah.
And then you have this little pocket in there that's Littleton.
Littleton. Yeah,
And-
my kids were in the Littleton school district for a long
Yeah,
time. And
great
it's a
school district.
Great school district. It only has 3 high schools, I believe. I think it's Arapahoe Heritage and Littleton High School.
That's correct. I think
Yeah,
you are
so it's a
correct.
smaller
It's
district,
very
but a lot of
small
people
district.
like that.
They do.
Yeah.
So and then you kind of border, we talked about last week, we kind of touched base about Cherry Hills, Greenwood Village, but there is Cherry Creek School District.
That's right.
Which then runs into Inglewood a little bit and some into Littleton because the border line
and
there.
Southeast Aurora.
And Southeast
Centennial,
Aurora, right. It
yeah,
goes,
yeah.
they're usually really hard to beat in sports if your kids play high school
Cherry,
sports.
Cherry Creek School District is a great school district.
Great school district.
I believe Cherry Creek High School is the largest public school in Colorado.
Yeah, it's a great high school. I mean,
is.
it is like a college campus. It's
It is.
beautiful.
It's huge, and a lot of good athletes. I think
Very
we've got couple people that were in the Super Bowl that came from Cherry Creek and Valor and some of those
Right.
schools.
Valor is in the Highlands Ranch area. I think Christian McCaffrey went there.
And I want to say Shanahan went to Creek.
He did.
So Kyle
yeah,
Shanahan,
he talked about that when during the Super Bowl.
Right,
and
with
like
all
a
the
lot
Colorado
of,
connections and
the
stuff.
Colorado connections this past Super Bowl.
Yeah, so I obviously I live on this side of town. I have for 20 plus years. So I enjoy it down here. There is definitely ample parking. That is the one good thing. You don't have to worry about paying to park or finding a spot. And then there is a way, if you want to get downtown, you can hop on the light rail, get to the games. So there is a lot going on down here. But it is suburbia. Let's be real. Like it's not, if you're looking for city
houses with yards or a lot of people with dogs. I mean, I think everywhere in the Denver metro area, but I mean,
well, that's true. I think there are a lot of dogs. I think there might be the most dogs.
I think that if you want to move to Denver, or you should love dogs. Everybody has dogs. We have 2. So
we have our dog. Our dog is getting really old, and he's not.
Poor Bingo.
We got him with the name Bingo. Let's be clear, but
and Bingo was his name.
Yeah, he's 14 years old, and he's not doing great, but
he's great.
He's been a good dog. Yeah. So you do want to. There's lots of places that you can take your dogs right on the patio and have like beer gardens and different it's just a part of the Colorado
down
culture.
Santa Fe, the Breckenridge Brewery, which is somewhat, it feels new, but it's probably already 5 years old. And
it's long, I think it's older than that.
And they have the great they do and they have some great. I mean not. But there's some biking trails that outside of Highlands Ranch, the Platte. A lot of people are on the Platte, and
hopefully they finish the Santa Fe interchange soon.
They've been working on that forever.
It does feel like forever, but I do think that they're going to make a tunnel under Santa Fe.
Oh,
because I know if you've ever been at that intersection, it's crazy.
I don't know if you guys are into road biking, but Patrick's wife Paula and I and friend Elise and sometimes our friend Kristen, we do a little loop that the guys hate because the guys, as in the husbands, they are all about mountain biking. They don't want to be on concrete paths, but there is a great 30-mile loop that we always do.
Yeah, and there's there's the east-west trail now that goes all the way, and it's not paved.
Right.
A lot of
Are
it is
you talking about
dirt.
the triple bike path?
No, I'm not talking about that at all. I don't know who would ever call it that. So the east-west trail, though, is on the south side of Highlands Ranch, and it goes all the way from Santa Fe, and they've extended it all the way out into Parker.
Oh,
so you can go to the Cherry Creek Trail from there. So there is a lot of trail systems and a lot of fun recreation that you can do. Hess
Outside.
Reservoir
recently
opened. You can paddleboard there. I think
that's great. I did not know that.
Yeah. So there is Cherry Creek Reservoirs right there too. There is a lot to do down here. But it is, like I said, there's not a ton of walkability. So there are some downsides, right? Like you want to make sure that where you go is kind of what you're looking for, right? Like so
now you can kind of stay in your bubble, but I think Denver definitely is a more of a you need an automobile. You need some sort of vehicle.
You definitely need a car if you're going to live down here. You drive everywhere. Everything's about 20 minutes away.
Definitely need a car, but
there's public transport. But I would highly recommend it.
But I would say that Denver probably does struggle a little bit, and as far as like the outskirts, the suburbs, we do struggle a little bit. I think with public transportation. I mean,
it's not as good as some other
it's not like Chicago or
Boston
New York or Boston.
Yeah.
I think we're still, we're they used to call it a little town, right?
Well,
Denver
was a cow town.
Yeah.
But they put the light rail in, and they're even actually talking about a rail connector that goes from Colorado Springs to Fort Collins.
They've been talking about that for a long time. What about that Tesla thing that they were supposed to? It wasn't a Tesla, but it was like that.
Oh, like the tube,
the speed tube that was supposed to go from Denver to the mountains, that would be great because I-70 traffic.
The biggest issue is 70 traffic. I have a hard time going skiing on the weekends anymore because of it. I mean, that's my opinion on the south side of town. I think there's a lot to do down here. There's a lot of restaurants and shopping. Really, you have everything that you need if you don't want to leave, if you don't want to go north of Hamden.
Right.
But at the same time, You can head downtown. It's not walkable, so that's one downside.
The
It's
south
not-
side.
Yeah, it's not like downtown or some of the more condensed areas. It's
Right.
definitely more like urban sprawl, suburbia kind of landscape. But the community is great. They do a lot of community events down here and things like that. So it is more of that kind of wholesome,
And-
all-American type of town. And I think that's why people like Highlands Ranch.
Right.
It was in the news a lot as being one of the best places to live because of all of the different
All the
community events that they
master-
do. And yeah.
HOA but there's within like these, the suburbs are little towns like there's a downtown Littleton.
Yeah, which is
There's-
fantastic.
Yeah, great. There's
Yeah.
a downtown Inglewood, which they have revamped, which is where my mom's restaurant is.
Yeah, I was going to say, great
Yeah,
restaurant.
yeah.
But Zomo, if you want to stop by for some wonderful
Vietnamese fusion
fusion.
food.
Yeah, fusion, I think is what it's wonderful.
Yep. So there's downtown
Inglewood,
Inglewood,
Parker?
downtown Littleton, downtown Parker, but we'll talk about Parker when we talk about the east, I think.
It is a little more, I mean, it's south as
It
well,
is-
but
it
it's
is
on the,
south.
it's east of I-25 though.
southeast.
I mean, I think if you're talking south, you kind of
southeast.
have to include Parker. But it is more
I
southeast.
was going to
though.
include it in the
In the
east,
east,
but okay,
yeah.
we'll say Parker twice.
What about
Parker in
Castle
the south,
Rock?
Okay, that's definitely south. But I think Castle Rock is not a part of Denver Metro. I feel like Castle Rock is its own.
It used to be, but I think
You
you
think
could
so?
probably make the argument that it has really become a part of the Denver Metro now.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
mean, you still, you go over
It's not that far.
Surrey Ridge, but then
Yeah.
as soon as you're over, it's like there. And
There.
Castle Rock has grown so
Yes,
much.
it's grown a lot. So Castle Rock is actually really great. What used to happen, years ago, would be people would want to live in Highlands Ranch, but they would find out the amount of house that you can get for the same price if you go just a little bit south into Castle Rock
Yeah.
was great. But now, you're right. Just how we had talked, I think, a few podcasts ago about how the South has merged together. We're going to probably soon see Colorado Springs all the way to
Right.
Denver. Just
Yep.
kind of like Miami and Fort Lauderdale. Have you ever driven that
Yeah.
drive? Oh yeah, I used to live in Florida.
Yeah.
That is like packed.
It is.
You
It is
know.
all the way down 95.
I think the mountains kind of help us a little bit. Our terrain will help us maybe to keep a little bit of
Yeah,
greenery,
but I do think we are pretty much Colorado
Yeah,
to
so
Fort
I don't
Collins, Colorado Springs to Fort Collins.
I guess if anyone wants to, tune in, not tune in, but comment on whether they think Castle Rock is a part of the Denver metro area. I would be interested.
I think you kind of have to, and as you go down Parker Road now, Castle Rock has come all the way east to Parker
So
Road.
then if we're going to count Castle Rock, then we got to count Sedalia. And then are we stopping
Elizabeth?
at Franktown?
No,
or,
those- I don't think so.
So you think Franktown and Elizabeth are outside of the Denver metro area?
I
See,
do.
I'm just saying.
I do.
I don't.
Franktown and Elizabeth are not a part of the Denver metro. They are out there. I mean, come on, that's maybe on the outskirts. But Castle Rock, I think the argument could be made. I can see both sides of the coin because it really, but it has grown so much that now all of a sudden
Yes.
it's like right there.
Yes,
it
really
so
has. And Castle Rock's a great area. I mean, they have a lot of...
It's beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful. They have
yeah.
newer hospitals. And they are building like crazy down there. So
Yeah, and their
they
downtown
actually,
area is really cool too.
Speaking of Castle Rock, they have, and I cannot remember which builder it is, but they have these multi-generational homes now that they're, instead of, they used to be called mother-in-law apartments.
I know Lennar's been doing it, and so is Richmond.
Okay.
And they're called, multi-generational
Right.
dwellings, where it has the accessory dwelling unit to where you either can go have like your mother-in-law, I think suite was maybe
Yeah.
what they used to call it. But you've got maybe a separate living area
Right.
for...
And they're just seeing that more generations are living together because of just pricing
Yeah.
and affordability once again.
Yeah.
So Castle Rock, if you're looking for that type of home, there's quite a few new builds
Yeah.
down there. So
Well-
and even in Littleton, so that definitely builders are building out. So we love the south side. I love the west side a little bit better because that's where I live. But we'll talk about that next week.
We'll do West Side next week.
Yes.
West Side. What's interesting about those units though is the new topic is all about house hacking. Have you
House
heard
hacking.
about house hacking? Maybe we'll do that on
Okay,
another
we'll
episode.
do that on the west side too.
Well, we can talk about house hacking.
House hacking.
Yeah. Well, so is that you got anything else? Are we gonna wrap this thing up?
I think we're going to wrap it up. So, if you want to hear about the west side of Denver and house hacking, apparently, you can tune into our podcast next week
Yeah, and if you found any information that we've provided today useful, please share us, give us a like. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes.
See you next week.